thought they were,
Hit on a raised
I have one of those too.
Okay, it's recording.
Okay.
704.
7:04, we're gonna bring the selectmen's meeting to order. And we have all three selectmen here. We have town administrator, the town selectmen's recording secretary. And Mert, this is on live, I take it, we're all set?
Live,
Live, Mert Man is recording.
Thursday night live.
Thursday night live, okay. We have old business first, we have the minutes.
I'll make the motion to approve the September 14th, 2017 minutes as written.
Because I didn't update the agenda.
I did for you while you were gone.
Thank you.
second,
And I did make one correction, which came in afterwards today. You guys missed it, it was carbon monoxide, not dioxide.
Oh, okay.
So I had some fun
Did
with
I
that.
write it?
Yes. But the thing is, I gotta laugh. You got-
As amended then.
As amended, yes.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I generally say as amended too, but.
So I have to put as amended in the
Yes.
thing?
Yes, please. There were a few other small couples, but they're all corrected. No meanings were changed. I got a gander of that. You know, it's funny, I almost went through it, and I saw carbon dioxide, I had to take a second look at it. Something's not right with that picture.
I checked it twice.
What's 702?
That's what time these minutes were
Oh,
started. That's what I put. The 7:02 minutes is September 14th.
okay, you want me to put the time on it from now on?
No, I got it on my right there.
Okay, I'm gonna open up the public comment. All right, nothing? John, you're on the agenda? Linda?
I just had two quick things before I
Sure.
scooch back to work. One, you all got the letter of resignation from Tiffany for the.
Yes, it's in my mailbox.
So here is the appointment paper for
Ah,
Paul.
great, thank you.
You're welcome. And the other thing I had is I was preparing my renewal notices for motor vehicle for October. And Halloween is on a Tuesday evening.
Okay,
So for the safety of the trick-or-treaters, I will hold daytime hours that day. So instead of the 11 to 7, I'll be open 7:30 to 3:30, so I'll be out of here in time for the
Oh,
trick-or-treaters. For the trick-or-treaters. Judy, I know, told her I'd
So
let you
your
know.
office hours are gonna change, not the trick-or-treaters hours. Okay.
Sorry.
it was
Wanted
worthwhile.
to get it all.
You wanna put it on the bulletin board, or just the hot topics?
With trick-or-treat, we always do 5 to 8, that's been our
Okay.
tradition. So because I have hours and Judy has hours on Tuesday night, she's gonna close, she won't be open at all.
Okay.
And I'll close early enough to be out of here, so that the clientele won't
So
be
how are we
interfering
gonna
with
notify the
trick-or-treaters.
public?
I'd say,
We put it on hot
We put it
topics.
on
yeah,
hot
but I think
topics.
maybe trick or treat, we put the trick or treat hours and say maybe on the bottom, town offices closed.
Close for
that
the
evening.
evening, that's
I
perfect.
think that'd be good, cause that board's looking pretty empty out there.
Yeah,
Okay.
If we have space, absolutely, I don't have a problem
I,
with that.
yeah, what's on there now?
I don't know. I don't know.
what's it, say town offices will close at, what time you normally out of here
Sue
by?
Bracy does it
5,
for me.
4?
Yeah, on Halloween.
Close at
which is
3:30, my
Close at 3.
daytime hours close at 3:30.
Then
And
would you
that's-
say, town offices will close at 3:30?
Wait.
Whatever,
4,
4,
yeah, whatever time you close.
4.
4.
So it's 7:30 to 4, Linda?
So I'll be open 7:30 to 3:30.
Oh, 7:30,
Lean is gonna be open until 4 o'clock,
Yeah.
Lean and the
okay.
building
Office.
department and.
Yeah.
But just a little blurb like that would probably be helpful.
But
I
yeah,
don't
just
think
trick or
it's
treat.
out there.
Yeah.
Trick or treat is 5 to 8
Yeah,
Yeah.
on
and
the
then town
31st.
offices closed at 4, just in
That's
general,
perfect.
yeah. And then you'll put your we always put them on the Google Calendar too. with
Yeah,
the-
but I think that might get a little more impact than people going by.
Okay.
Yeah, you got a hanging chat,
I know.
just,
Or just if they come and the door's locked, they can go back and look at the board too and see what's going on.
Yeah, we'll post it everywhere.
Yeah, okay.
yeah, but the point is to just make sure that the general business is out of the parking lot in time for all the goblins. And I've already let the police chief know as well that that I be holding daytime hours and Judy be closed.
Yep, I think it's, just a matter of getting the public, getting that word out.
Okay.
Cause you know, it takes only 2 residents, even one, we don't wanna diss anybody.
We always, when trick or treat falls on a night that we have some function going, this is what we do.
Okay.
So I'm just bringing you folks up to
That works,
speed on that.
thank you,
Yeah,
that's good.
I'll do it tomorrow, so we can get it out
Okay,
there
thanks.
anyway.
And I don't think anybody's meeting that night, but you can check.
Okay.
Great,
Thank you.
you're very welcome. Thanks. Okay, I'm gonna close public comment, and I'm gonna ask John to come right up and talk about our utility options.
I have kind of a, I got kind of a worksheet here to summarize situational.
Thank you.
Or you, or we-
Give it to me, I can
Yeah,
share,
I'll give you mine
I'll
as
share
soon as-
Dave's.
Okay,
So this all started with, Lean asked me to look into something. She had been contacted by a Jim Fagan, who works for, Freedom Energy Logistics Incorporated, and what they are offering is a discounted rate on our electric. And Lean asked me to look into that. I have to an extent.
Mike, can you pass that over to, Corin? That might be helpful for her, just we get the name of the gentleman. Okay, thank you.
so I take it it looks like it's almost, these are 3 alternative with the present cost, and then two other, alternate supplier savings.
Yeah, and I looked into this 2 or 3 years ago. On your electric bills, and there's a section here in the middle, which is what that is there. You'll see that there's the supplier section, and then there's the delivery, right?
Right.
And all of these alternates are in the supplier only area.
Gotcha, so we're
Okay.
comparing 85 to 65 and 60.
Huh?
We're comparing just the 85,000.
Yeah,
85.
yeah, and these numbers here are what I was able to gather, just sort of rough. In order to find out what the price will actually be and the terms and conditions, and because you sign a contract, and to do that, the suppliers need to have the account numbers for all the buildings, which are all different. It isn't just one number for the town.
Right.
There are separate accounts, so you could not get the actual figure and the terms and conditions. Last time I looked into that, the terms were things like you sign on for a one-year contract at a fixed rate, or you can sign on for a 2-year, and if you back out of that, then there's a penalty to be paid and whatnot, right? And some of them even allow some variation in the rate that they'll charge you.
Yeah, like I've seen that the first 6 months is at a certain rate, and after that point, even if you're in a 1-year or 2-year agreement, they're allowed to fluctuate on the balance of that term, so it doesn't.
No guaranteed
always-
savings?
Yeah, it's not like when they list their contracts, it's not for the total time.
Well, it varies company by.
Right.
Company, and, this outfit here, Freedom,
Right,
what they do, they are functionally a broker.
Right.
So you say, look up and find out, get me the quotes for 3 or 4 of these, places. you know?
They don't know we have you.
What?
They don't know we have you.
No, that's correct.
You're our broker.
No, and, well, I could be, but last time we looked into this, there was reluctance on the part of the board, I think, to give out the account numbers.
Mhm.
Okay, that to me is just what was preferred, and it's not an evil thing or whatever, right? It's just,
trying to do business.
So I think if I understand you right, John, where did you get these numbers? Are these based on estimates from what you saw through those links? Is that how you came up with those kilowatt savings?
okay, the point 0091 was from Fagan. I
Talk to him,
right,
okay,
and he said an estimate for what they can get us.
What was the company's name, Fagan?
It was, taking this guy here.
it was Freedom Energy, and he was the representative from
Okay,
them.
he was
Yeah,
the one.
So-
Jim Fagan.
So Steve was able to get some verbal information of an estimate, and what I think Steve is saying is, once we give them the authority to look at our data, or our reports, or our
You mean
bills,
John?
no, Jim,
Jim Fagan.
once we have to sign a document that
Steve?
says,
No,
John, I said Steve, I meant John.
Okay.
I'm sorry,
You
Steve.
guys going a little too fast, I didn't know who Steve was, I don't know.
okay,
Lots of people do
John
that.
Stevens, I am sorry. So, basically what these guys have to do is they have to get permission from us to look at our bills and our kilowatts and all of our data, which John,
Yes.
okay, has access to now. We've given him that because he's part of the energy committee. So he was able to get a little bit of information from Jim to come up with some of these numbers to give you an idea of where we could potentially save some money.
Yeah.
And who's the second source on here, John?
What?
The third.
Who's the second source? The
The
first one's our president,
Yeah.
so.
Right, the second one is the estimate that Jim Fagan.
So he's thinking
gave
that,
me.
you know, right
Estimate.
now, he's at 2,000, but he says he probably could save 2,400.
And the third one, I just went out on the net and looked at alternate,
Oh, okay,
and they ranged from 0.81 up to 0.96. Other alternates, but that's their ads. Bottom line, nothing is final until you give them the account numbers, and
Right.
they give you an actual quote and a contract,
correct, yeah.
all right? So this is just sort of,
What's your
Rough.
personal feeling about, should we pursue it, or just, because, you know, I think, Dave is right in the sense that, you know, they can give you a prediction for 6 months locked in, but after 6 months, they can fluctuate and go up a little bit, and then they're basically competitive. I mean, they buy the same electricity from the same sources Eversource does. So-
yeah, see,
It's almost
the climate on this, once once the PUC approved alternate suppliers, not too long after that, Eversource started to sell off its power plants, right? So that meant that they put themselves in the same place as the alternate suppliers, which lets them shop for the lowest rate.
And I also understand some alternate suppliers which came on early are now gone.
And 2 or 3 years ago, several of them basically went upside down. They had promises, they failed, bankrupt, overbooked, and all that kind of stuff. You know, so if you were to find one who was reputable, well, maybe then. You know, I'm here more just to present the information rather than to give you a yes, no, or what I'm thinking, because that's basically not my decision, and
Well,
I just
I
want
understood,
to get the facts.
but we do
out.
respect your opinion.
Yeah. I'm just speaking about the cautions, the pluses and minuses that I've learned. Because ultimately, it's your decision, you
Yeah.
know.
Some of the companies that went out because they didn't have a large enough base
Right.
buying power. The one that's been successful is that, I think it's New England Power, because I just saw their ad again today, even though I don't bother with it. You know, and they're actually at .91, that's what they quoted, .091.
Yeah.
And the problem I have with some of that is, if you read down through their contract, they can sell off a base of people to a different supplier after 6 months. And so you might find that you're not holding them accountable because they're no longer holding you. It's like getting a mortgage from a bank and the bank sells it off, you know? And so that's the concern I have, you know, with not switching, is I get concerned when you read the contract and you're giving up things, but yet if you leave them, say you do get them for your power supply and you decide, again, like you mentioned, you wanna leave before your year's up, you're paying a penalty.
Right.
You follow me? So,
Well, that's because they are looking at ways of making money here, and a couple other thoughts. I got out to the Eversource site, you know, and they spoke about how to search for alternates and whatnot, and for an alternate to have their name on the bill up here, you know, for the supplier, it has to be someone who was approved by Eversource. Okay, so in a way, that kind of says it might,
Be legitimate.
yeah, right. But bottom line, until you actually give them the account numbers and allow them to quote, you aren't gonna come up to a bottom line. And the bottom line is the rate that they'll charge, but you also, like anything else, you wanna read the fine print, because there are terms and conditions. Okay?
I'm hearing consensus from my colleagues here, that we table this.
Well, you could put out and actually find out what they're offering. You don't have to sign anything. It's just you are giving out those
I don't see why we
numbers.
can't give them the total kilowatt hours and get an estimated price from them instead of giving them a copy of our bill basically, cause
I agree with
if you give those account numbers, they're gonna call that supplier and ask them our total usage on those different account numbers. And I think that's giving them too much information as well. Because they could actually call and maybe alter something on our account stating that they're the townspeople, you know, so. I
Well-
think we should just go on a total usage that the town uses on a yearly rate and then, you know, have them shop it, and that in that manner.
But
And if they won't do it,
They,
then we should stay away from them.
well, see, because I kind of track this and I have access to the account and I can download all that kind of stuff, you know, and whatnot. Unlike 99% of the other clients they have, right, people don't know or whatnot, they want the data. And we would be one of the few asking them for a quote that actually had the data, right?
That didn't have the data.
That- We have the data, most others don't.
Don't, yeah.
Customers don't. And also that there are different rates for residential, for business, for stuff like that, so, bottom line, they aren't gonna give you a quote, and the terms and conditions are a very important part of that whole deal, okay?
I would make one suggestion that maybe we have the energy committee look into even Eversource and ask them if we are at the appropriate rate for a town using that many kilowatts, even though it's in different facilities and different departments as a whole, to make sure that we're in, because they do have different rates for commercial businesses and whatnot throughout this state, depending on usages. So maybe we should have the energy committee look into that and make sure we're at the best rate with them.
They should be billing it as a one aggregate account, and several accounts.
Yeah, because we're using a certain, and you might find our rate will drop, and we might not need to negotiate with a different company.
Well, there's a couple things happening now. We just upgraded our lighting in the highway department. That was one of our bigger usages. The only one that's really sticks out is the police and fire, that building there. We have a meeting in maybe 3 to 4 weeks with that other provider that's gonna hold a public hearing.
Yeah.
And he did finally return a call to me, or send me an email. He's been busy with other public hearings, but he does plan on scheduling something mid to third week of October, he thinks. So I'm asking for confirmation so I can get it out on a notice to, let people know that there's going to be a public hearing for that other alternative, New England Power, or the third person that.
I will be out of town from the 15th, I think, to like the 26th, if you wanna jot that down, so I
Yeah,
can
try to work
be
it after.
And
John, the grants that we got on our buildings, like the garage, the grants, who paid for who supplemented? Was that the Eversource or was it the state?
that's a,
That was independent lighting.
there are so many out there, whether they're state or federal or a combination.
Okay.
At the moment, I just can't answer that absolutely. Right, but that was a 50%.
Right, it was a fantastic match.
Rebate, it's called.
Right, but who gave the rebate? Was it
Eversource, I thought, no?
Well, there's a,
the state?
Comes out of a state revolving fund, doesn't it? And it
exactly.
only gets
Yes.
replenished,
Right.
just,
Thank
well,
you.
this year, not
Yeah.
as much as in the past, but.
I was so absorbed in the numbers that,
Okay.
thank you for saying that, it just.
I would rather review this bill at this time with Eversource and see if we are buying at the best rate for the usage for our town, and then maybe we'll go from there.
Yeah, maybe just an accounting, reconciliation.
Because there's so many separate individual usages, maybe they're not tallying it up for the town, maybe nobody's even addressed it before.
John, you see what he's saying?
Yeah,
Maybe we should have several accounts in one main account and bill under one main account.
John, is that something that you'd like to do with Eversource, or do you need the selectmen to do it, or the town administrator, or do you wanna try and approach that with,
If you have access to all the accounts, you can speak on behalf of the town, the energy committee.
Yeah, oh, I see what you're saying. You're saying contact the Eversource to
Eversource.
find out if we have 7 buildings or
Yeah.
whatever, are we getting the best price
Rate.
per total?
For total,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, but I
And-
wonder if they would do that when you have a separate meter at each building.
They will, because we have the usages paid by one thing. Now, what they might have to do is have different addresses with one total bill, instead of several different bills. How are we billed now? Are we all?
Separate, this address,
Okay.
separate locations with this address.
So we may need to change how it's billed in order to get the best rate for the town. Maybe
Right.
it's one account with
That's
sub-addresses.
what I was thinking.
So,
Which is what is on the bill now, so it has ours as a primary, and then the description of the, like it says, transfer station, Everett Road, and then.
I would just like to see if we're getting a municipality or a commercial rate, on our, or if there's anything they can offer us as a municipality.
You know, we
For
never
rate.
looked into that, and you're right, that would be a great avenue to check.
And it could be they're already offering it, and we don't know, but, I'm not
Before we
even
go down
sure.
that path, let's look at what we have closer.
Well, we're at over 11.5 cents a kilowatt.
Mhm.
I haven't looked at my own lately, but,
Yeah, and I'd like to,
John, one other question to ask
Yeah.
him, you know how like at your own personal residence, the
right,
first 250 kilowatt hours are at a certain rate, a lower rate typically, and then above that usage is at a higher rate? Can you check and see if a municipality has that same type of, tiering?
I think what you may be referring to, and that's where I was going to head next. I'm not totally sure, but down here to start that is the total the sum of the electric bills from last June through May this year, you know, 1 year, was 14,000 and change.
Yeah.
Of that, the supplier charges were 8,500 and change,
Yeah.
right? And then there's the other charges.
Which are always gonna be there.
Right, however, listed under those, there's something called a demand charge. Okay, and several of our buildings, like these numbers down here are the demand.
Yep, I see them, the 414 times 869 and the 414 times 656.
Right, so on our overall bill, something less than a half, but not a whole lot under that is demand charges. And when I look at that, I see a opportunity for savings. For example, at the town garage, the new fixtures draw. Oh, let me take a step back. The reason for the demand charges is Eversource has certain size lines, certain size transformers, and they have to be sized
On the demand.
to handle peak. Okay, so they have a charge for that. If you have a lot of peaks, well, they're gonna want some more money from you because they figure that they're gonna have to update your wires, transformers, hardware, whatever, right? So, that there are ways of dealing with that. One of them is like at the town garage where we replaced all those metal halides with the LEDs. That means that the constant load is lower. So when a big motor starts, it may not exceed that 5 kW figure. Okay, and another one is for about $180 a motor, you get a soft start module. So rather than there being this huge inrush into the motor coils to get them charged, right? It slows that down, so the peak amperage for that half a second or a second or something like that is a whole lot lower, and that means that your chances of exceeding the demand are lower.
What motors are you speaking of, like compressor motors and that type of thing?
Yeah,
Yeah, what is it called, the soft starter?
yes, soft start module. There,
Soft start.
there are
module.
other,
Okay,
So are you gonna look into that? Are you looking into that currently?
I think it's a great idea.
trying to, wanted to get an eval done on the fire and police, but Eversource said, yeah, we can do that, but they didn't follow up, they just needed to be reminded, and I got busy on other stuff, you know, so I didn't know whether that was something that was really worthwhile considering in the eyes of the town, you know.
I think probably to start with is the biggest thing, to make sure that we're buying it as a municipality and buying it the best rate that we can from them.
Yeah,
As a single
As a
payer?
collective, you know, total bill payer.
right.
So maybe see if we're in the right format, maybe they look it up and say, geez, you guys aren't in the right format, nobody ever asked us.
We had that happen with our long distance carrier, we were
Yeah.
like over $700 for long distance, I called the Dunbarton telephone, they said, oh, you don't have a long distance provider, so you get paid, you charge $1 something a minute.
Right,
And now we're paying .01 something with,
like the plan I have, the call around 603, they no longer offer it. If I give it up, I can't ever get it back, so you keep that type of a plan to keep that long distance buying rate lower.
yeah,
Okay, John, why don't we just leave it at, I like to just leave it at, just what you said, Dave.
Yeah,
Okay,
And take it for action, maybe get back to us in maybe 2 or 3 weeks.
when you're back.
yep, sounds like that's right.
yeah,
Yeah.
but before the end of the year, so we have something
Oh,
to
yeah.
work with for the budget.
For the budget.
But basically, I have until after Halloween, right?
That's right.
Okay, that sounds.
That'll give you a fair amount of time to do it, and, yeah, just make sure we're in the right buying group with them. I don't know, probably nobody's ever asked at the
I
time,
mentioned,
you know.
we haven't, that I know of.
And, if this gentleman calls again, we're, still trying to figure out which way is up.
Okay.
We haven't made a decision on it.
Yeah.
And John, you can let them know when you talk to them that the reason this came about is because we've been asked by alternative companies to supply energy to our town. And, so in considering that, we wanted to see how we were buying from them.
Right.
Making sure we're buying correctly.
Yep,
Yeah.
so they'll do a review, I'm sure, of our accounts with the town, and
Yeah, I gave Fagan our total annual.
but I'm not talking about Fagan now, I'm talking about Eversource.
Eversource, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, but.
Fagan can be put on the back burner.
But
Yeah.
I came in here to address the Fagan. thing.
Right,
So
absolutely.
Just changing
Change direction.
changing back to that. I gave him the total, and his response was a little cooler than the earlier ones. Perhaps we're a lower user than he kind of.
Expected, oh, good.
Yeah.
That's
Now,
nice.
the thought of basically going through a broker, right, saves us the administration costs every year of going through the whole thing, so, but for that, I would anticipate that they take some sort of percentage of.
Nothing is
total.
free, correct.
Well,
And
he's
had
sitting in
you
office, he's working,
given you
getting
any
paid.
ideas of the broker fee that they would charge? No.
No, and that kind of thing is, I don't know how I would get that out of him, you know.
Okay,
But-
then let's just go to the Eversource for now, and,
Check up and see whether staying within Eversource, we can do better.
Well, we
and,
agree
and,
that-
and if they need to change the way they're billing us, in other words,
Yeah.
if they need to change how they're making that statement out to us, we would be open to listening to that.
Yeah,
You know, whether it had to be billed, differently somehow.
You may even receive, what they're willing to do it for and what other companies within their network are willing to do it for. You know, cause you can go to their website and they list the ones you can get, this, supply side from.
Yeah.
Okay.
but I wanted to bring up the demand thing, because, that has the potential for saving just about as much money as this, maybe, you know, just as,
What, the two figures you have in the demand, oh, they're different rates, I see, one's for a high rate and one's under,
what's this?
thanks.
Where?
No, I just saw I saw your delineation of the demand charges.
Yeah, and that's because on the bill, they have it's, there's a KW distribution charge over
Baseline.
5.0.
Yeah.
And then there's a KW transmission charge, right? And one of them is $8.69, the other is $6.56, right?
Yep,
So those total up to
a lot.
on,
John, just thinking out loud, another thing you might ask them is, let them know that we just upgraded the lighting in the highway department, so our demand on that section,
right,
they might give us a reduction on that section of the bill right there, just because we've upgraded that lighting, so.
and that's how the numbers will just work out,
Right,
right? Because if we don't,
use it, they won't have the demand.
if we
rating.
don't hit that peak as
Yeah.
often, we'll pay less.
Okay,
Okay, great.
thank you, John.
Yeah, it was, started off as a simple question, but there was
Yeah.
a lot to do with it.
There always is, isn't there?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now
Thanks
what
for,
we're gonna do next.
thanks for all your work, John.
Now I gotta think of something
Now,
else to do.
just out of curiosity, do you have, your home electricity, who do you have?
Eversource.
Thank you.
That's because I don't live way over on the eastern edge of town.
Okay. But that's a testimony right there.
Yeah,
Okay,
nope,
thank you.
just looking for the bottom line, fairness.
That's good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll close John Stevenson's, action item, and, we have a lot in inbox, let's, tackle that first.
And hearing that, good night.
Good night, sir.
Thank you, John.
Okay, I'll go with the first item. There is draft minutes of the Joint Loss Management Committee. I think it's kind of interesting, I think Bob made a comment to me, a side comment, how he'd like to possibly step down and make sure we are involved with this in the future.
Or
I was like-
one of you, yes,
We have to have a selectmen's rep.
Right.
yeah,
And then, because it's basically, where improvements in town can be made, but the thing is, it's one thing to talk about it, it's one thing to see in person.
right.
And I think it's a good recommendation by Bob, but we all saw those minutes, the draft minutes, but I thought it was kinda interesting.
Now you're talking to, as a representative to other things, not as a, you're not stepping down as a.
No,
Just
no,
this
no.
one
No, no, no,
committee, joint loss committee,
It's-
he's the
Joint loss
selectmen's,
committee, okay.
he is the selectmen's rep.
Right, and it would be good to have a different selectman on it, to see the same things that I've seen over the past year, cause they're still
They're repeats,
problematic.
yes, they are,
They're
yeah,
repeating the same thing.
yeah.
Okay, this was an FYI only, that, the tax bill for Merrimack County, the municipality is up this year. We get some information on the top where last year was 84,846, and it went up to 922K. That's more of an FYI.
Lee, did we get these minutes sent to us by
I
email?
will, yeah,
Okay.
I will CC, cause
Just so I can read them, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I did scan them earlier
Yeah.
here, but not, thank
Okay.
you.
Are these all down?
Yeah.
Did you wanna give that one to Corinne so she can
Yeah.
put the headings on
Yeah.
that last one?
Lean, could you just comment on why that's important to us,
What's that?
the Merrimack County tax bill, is that,
Well, that's one of our breakdowns of our overall total tax.
so it's going up?
It looks like it's going to go up, if it went up $90,000, even if you use the same formula that I use on our property assessment, and you take that increase and divide it into the total assessment, that's a good rule of thumb of how to calculate what that impact's gonna be. So I think, when we had $100,000, it was 33 cents on the tax rate, so this is an increase of what, 90 you said?
Yes,
So we're looking at about 30 cents
from the county.
on the county side. I mean, they're a small portion of the tax.
Can I have a copy of this, am I allowed to have a copy of this?
Yep,
Yes.
yep,
Okay, I'll just have her give me a copy.
yep.
All right, and then we have, just information, from Health Trust sent us information on, if you recall that presentation on healthcare plans, they're talking about the FSAs and HRAs, Health Trust Benefit Advantage,
Savings accounts.
Yeah, and so this is more an FYI. We're gonna have a presentation, we're gonna review it again when the numbers come in.
Yeah.
Correct.
So with this is an FYI, there's no action needed on that one. All right, I do have, I'm gonna go pull something from the back. Okay, these two are kind of related, just, we had an injury in in this town office, and I think we all saw it. And,
Actually, we've gotta finish signing it, Mike.
okay,
I did see it earlier,
okay,
and you need to put your initials on.
Is that going into the mailbox?
yes. It's more of an FYI, no action needed on our part, with the exception that, if you read what happened here, upon hearing that there was a dysfunctional piece of equipment in the office, Lean took it upon herself, and with my encouragement, to get that rectified for a small amount of money.
No
The
names.
person's name, yeah, just
Yeah,
put
This is a
injury report.
Injury reported.
corrective action. I said, go ahead and expend it immediately, because it's almost administrative, that many dollars to correct the issue.
Okay, I have one more brainstorm from our, office manager who orders our supplies. We have a screen that is functional.
that?
and We have, Jo Marie, she's awesome, she saves the town a lot of money. And it doesn't take a lot of time to do it either, but she was leaving today and she went by the building department and realized that the building department's on the outside and it's functional. For the time being, we can replace that one into the other office and put this one on the outside, because the issue is that the angle of depth to the screen is pulled at a different angle, and it created a crack on the little holder that holds the screen up and down. So for the time being, we can replace the building department into the other office, and then put that one
Yeah.
over here,
How
because,
many days are you talking to get in though, a day and a half, 2 days?
yeah, do we wanna just replace it with a new, or
Just replace it new right
not
away.
bother swapping it out?
No, just get a new one right
Right.
away.
And while we're on that issue, when an employee gets hurt, I'd like to see them fill an incident report the same day they're hurt, cause you only have 48 hours to report it
Oh, yeah.
to workers' comp.
Yep.
They're gonna wanna see the incident report, and so what happens is, some of this could get problematic if it's dragged out for too long, cause our insurance carrier might say they won't honor that.
Can we send just a quick note out to the town employees
Mhm.
to make them aware of it one more time? I know it's in their manuals and stuff, but
Yeah,
I don't think it would hurt, like Bob said, to give them a heads up, to make sure if they're injured, to notify
Needs-
their supervisor
Yep.
immediately and.
Worst case scenario is nothing ever happens.
Right.
But if something does, they have an incident report that they can go back to and say, this is what
yeah,
happened.
It's
Yeah.
protection for the employee, so
Right.
if something happens and it doesn't manifest itself 2 days later, they may be out of luck.
Within, how many hours?
48.
48.
Usually
I think
it's
it's-
48 hours to report an
And it has to be a
injury.
written report.
To
They have
report an injury,
Right.
you
Yep.
know?
It has to be a written report.
Yep. That form is what they wanna see within
Right.
48 hours.
And
Even
if
if
we
even
have-
if we just do that to the
Finance
department
one.
heads,
right,
so that they notify, but
and we
whatever you
have
wanna-
5 days to submit it to
Right.
Primex, but it's the period that's open to an employee that they should be, even if it's the fire department with blood splatter, they have to do it within a certain amount of time.
Right, they may have nothing, but it could be a problem down the road.
Yeah, yeah.
It is an incident report.
Why don't we make this a motion so that, she can get this expedited,
I think it's already ordered.
It's already ordered, okay, good.
The dollar figure was reasonable,
Mm.
too reasonable.
What's this?
I should have
This
had
is for
The shade.
I should have had her
replacement
order blinds from me.
Shade / blind.
He does a good job.
It did. Okay, Lean, I'm gonna ask you to address this. This is information only about the Vision 6 life software support.
I try to include the board with actions of the Board of Assessors, only because you're so new. This is will potentially impact the Board of Assessors budget in the future. And it's pretty much a software that we use for our assessment. MRI updates the data, we transcribe that data into another software for our tax bill. But they're saying that in 2020, that software that we currently have will not, it's like, what do they call it? It's not, it starts with an O or something. It's not gonna be supported by Microsoft.
V6. Need to update it to a V8, did I read that? right?
Yeah, but it's gonna cost additional money if we choose to go that route.
Compatible with Oracle.
Oracle, that's it. And that's just, it's just like when they had the old Windows ME or whatever, all of a sudden it just,
Do they have that amount of money in their budget? Lean?
this year, right now, they only have the users of the software, so that if we need support, then we can reach out to Vision to work with us.
So when we're doing our budgets, we're gonna have to make sure that they have at least the $2,500.
They gotta come in and ask for that though.
Yeah,
Right,
Yeah.
I
right.
know, but when they come in front of us.
Absolutely,
Right,
but
and
double
that's-
check, make sure you're
so-
asking the right amount.
So that memo went to the Board of Assessors, I'm just CCing the board on that.
Okay, next item. Last week, Dave asked that we keep, the town administrator keep you up to date on the poll tax,
Oh, yeah.
as in utility poles. And it just so happens, we got an email that, House Bill 324, which was tabled last year, is essentially, having a second life.
It's at 324.
House Bill 324, and it was retained rather than tabled. It was not tabled, it was retained. And retained means it can come back to life. So the subcommittee met today, I don't know the result of that. We should at least see if it comes out of subcommittee. If it gets out of committee, and we find it's gonna go to the House for a vote, I'd recommend strongly that we fight this with our representatives, get them all engaged, the 3 representatives, as it is a House bill. And if you've read this, it just adjusts the tax rate for our utility poles going through town. It takes it out away from Dunbarton, puts it in the state commission, which would be lower.
So just for your information, Dave, I think the guys may have heard this a little bit, we hire a private company to assess our utility companies that we have running through the town. The DRA has a formula that they set up back in the 50s, and that formula has never been adjusted for the times and the increase of today's standards. So when you look at the calculations that the DRA will come up versus the ones that we currently get through Sanssouci, it's like a third of property value assessment. And George Sanssouci stands firm with his calculations. He doesn't want to see this go through, because what will happen is we'll lose a third of our utility value. Right now, it's like $21 million, and at a different tax rate, a lower tax rate, but still, that's a lot of property value. If you lose a third of that, it falls back on the residents.
So, thing is, at this point, I just wanna see, we just gotta monitor where the bill is. And then if it becomes, that's gonna go, if it comes out of committee with approval, we gotta get our representatives engaged. And so I think, we just keep our powder dry for now, but be ready to, contact them. I think we can speak as a consensus that we want this defeated.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's, problematic. And the thing is, I wonder who's, the utilities are firmly behind it, and I'm sure they're spending a lot of lobbyist money. All right, Lean, I don't understand what this one is at all.
What is
It's
that?
about, Vision NH User Group,
That's what,
is that part of the,
that's part of that other
the-
memo. It was
Okay,
probably attached to the board
Got
of
it.
assessors.
it's, more reading than I need.
Mhm.
All right, earlier, this is we have results that came into the mailbox. I think it's a good reading. It'll help us as we participate in setting salaries for our employees. This is a survey of small towns who participated in a survey, a salary and wage survey across the area.
Compensation survey
And which,
in small towns.
I believe I sent that to you guys electronically,
You
so
did,
if you
yeah.
wanna read it at your leisure, that's what,
it may
there's a
give us
lot
a-
of reading there.
give us a feel for, make sure we right, too low, too high, or whatever.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, I asked Lean to print me a hard copy so I could read it
Okay.
at my leisure, so that was good.
Is that your copy?
Yeah, I brought it with me.
Oh, okay, so I must have had an extra one in the box.
and that was a
Yeah,
reading
this
copy.
was in the box, yeah.
Okay,
Okay, last, another item, we have
That was town, what was it?
it's a
I
compensation
think
survey.
it's Warner, right?
Compensation.
From Warner.
Survey from Warner.
which included,
Small
Small
towns,
towns.
including Dunbarton.
The reason we got a copy of it is we participated in that, so they have our data in there.
Yep,
Sure. And small towns?
Although I did see one thing in there, Bob, I thought you'd enjoy this, there wasn't enough data on longevity pay. That they could make an assessment on that, they didn't, a lot of towns just don't offer it.
No, well, no, and actually, if you go to the towns that we were provided with, they offer it at a lower rate.
Exactly, so, that's one we're doing, we're taking care of our employees,
Survey participants,
maybe too much.
Dunbarton.
well, we've amended that, so.
Yeah.
This covers whatever that you want, total compensation survey.
All right, this was we have a, Corinne, how you doing?
Just give me 1 second.
You got
Just wanna make sure I got this.
Second page has a little better title on it.
Okay.
For 2017. I'll ask them to make copies of some of this stuff for me, just so I have it. Oh, yeah. I'm caught up now.
Okay, Bob, Roger has submitted a resignation letter, if you recall last time,
Yeah.
at Roger from the transfer station. And, I asked him, when I was down there, I asked him to come by and see Lean for an exit interview, because I thought he might have some value-added information, and he did.
Can I ask what his last name is, Roger, who?
Rice,
Rice.
R-I-C.
Submitted a resignation?
Yeah, that was last week, it was last week's minutes,
Okay, that's right, all right.
remember? And so he had an exit interview, I thought was interesting, it's for everyone to read, and, I think it's, hold on, no, I talked to Woody today, Dave and myself we're still do a walkthrough with, Woody, so we can identify some of the items out there. Bob has already made his walkthrough there. I asked him maybe next week, to, maybe come and meet with us at this meeting, and just give us a philosophy of, which way he wants to take the direction, because there were some things on the table, if we're gonna hire anyone new, do we hire a CDL driver? But I heard just a CDL, driver only, assistant supervisor replace this gentleman, and Bob even, suggested maybe, in the future, we start thinking about maybe, eliminating the need to, haul it ourselves and contract that out. And so, I think it might be worthwhile to have an informal discussion at this meeting with Woody, and get some of his input on it. And I think, maybe 1 to 2 weeks, whenever he's on vacation.
He actually leaves for vacation the week after next, so he'll be gone for 2 weeks. We're looking at the 3rd week of October.
Okay, I think that might be appropriate, or
And he'll be out, so
what about next week?
October.
We just wanna get I just wanna make sure we're all on the same page, and maybe we can think some
Yeah,
ideas.
first 2 weeks of October, I think he's out, then you are out, and then
I wanna do it before the budget season.
oh yeah, we have time.
Yeah.
I'll make sure he gets in here.
And then,
While we're speaking about the exit interview,
yep,
the note in here I read said, do less minute recycling, do more removal recycling. Financially better for the town. So I think was what Bob was alluding to. I never heard it called minute recycling before.
Well,
but-
minute, I think he meant.
minute.
But I think when we were talking before he filled that out, he was basically saying that what he's observed from working in 2 different towns is that he feels that we are passionate with our department, and we do a very good job, it's very clean, and the equipment's up to par with the keeping it maintained and whatnot, but he felt that there were times where he observed the intensity of an employee taking things apart to save or to recoup little pieces of steel or
Putting
whatever.
in more effort than.
Too much
the
effort, so
value
the
is-
cost of what it costs that employee
Yeah.
to expend that energy versus what it would cost to send it out might not justify the time involved to.
specifically like a piece of furniture with some springs in it, tearing it apart to get the little bit of metal for the springs, by just tossing the whole thing in there and get it, saving the time and the man hours
Right,
of dismantling it.
I did notice that he did say he had good supervision in here, and liked his fellow employees. Would like $1 more an hour.
Did he say that? I didn't even read it.
Oh,
Yeah.
don't we all?
So it's an exit interview for Roger Rice.
I'll show it to Woody and see if there's anything that he can,
Okay. But the thing is, I think, we've had some, I might ask for going to non-public session tonight, just on, give you all a heads up on one item, okay? I don't think it's appropriate to talk in public on one item.
Do whatever you want.
Okay. Sorry, you had it ready.
I have,
Okay, I've come to the end, I think is, I just wanna let everyone know that, Steve was, the town administrator let Steve go this week. And, he's asked by email, I got an email, we all should have got an email, that he asked to speak, have a short short meeting with us. And, Steve,
Lauren.
And I was wondering whether, we wanna do that, or just, let bygones be guns and let him move on. But he
he's
wants.
requested a meeting.
He's requested a meeting with the selectmen, and I don't wanna just speak for all three of you, I need input from you all before we make that decision. I just wanna say one thing, I saw that he's been appropriately counseled along the way and given many opportunities for improvement. Lean has some of the documentation, and at this point, he just never improved enough where, he never evolved into a stellar employee. And so-
We have a request from the, we have a request for some information in reference to Steve.
Correct.
That's for
He's applied for
unemployment.
unemployment, and that's a requirement by our,
Okay, so that's common.
That's not anything, but he's requested a meeting with us, and I wanted to get a feeling for you two, if you wanted to entertain him and have him, we can do a non-public we can arrange it down the road.
I don't have a problem if it helps him understand where he might need to head. I don't have a problem
Okay.
with it,
But I don't wanna get a regurgitation of what he's been counseled with the documentation that he's had already on the way. I don't wanna go down that path.
I mean, if I have to provide him with his file, he may find that that's adequate enough that, as a refresher as to what was attempted.
well, maybe why don't we, reach out with him then and state, that we'd like him to review his file
Yep.
on record with you,
Mhm.
and if he still feels he wants a meeting after that, then we can reconsider it maybe. What do you
Okay.
think about that?
I think that's probably a more judicious way of doing it.
What do you think, Bob?
Well,
Is it the
we
employees?
acted on the recommendations that were brought before us.
From the,
So, I
Department
mean,
head as
and,
well.
and again, and of course, Lee knows where I am with that. I would have liked to seen the individual here when the corrective action was being addressed, you know, when the, planning board member brought forth the concerns. I prefer both parties
Parties,
be in the room, but not hearing that, I think giving him his file, if he doesn't understand why he's done,
Mhm.
we're just gonna reiterate, you know, if we met with him, we're reiterating what's come to us,
Mhm.
is it's problematic with him doing his job,
Mm.
cause it could be a cost to the town.
Mhm.
It puts us in jeopardy. So I guess I would go along with it, you know.
now, just wanna ask this, is it customary once an employee is done for them to be able to see their file?
Oh, yeah.
It is. So it's public record?
Well,
It's-
It's a right, private, it's a right to know, we have his own private, it says privacy.
Yeah, it's
Even
his
after
own
they're
file,
terminated?
yeah, it's still his file.
yeah,
I didn't know after they're terminated if that was still a.
Well,
I
it's
understand
either
what you-
that, it's either that or he can have his attorney request it, cause it's still, he's in a file here, and he needs to know what's in his file.
I understand that when you work for a company, but for a town.
Even when you're terminated, you have a right to see your file.
You do.
Okay,
I'm
But-
sorry, I just wanna ask one quick question.
sure.
The right to know to see his file, does he have the right to know to take it, a copy of it?
Yes, you get a copy.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I
Absolutely,
wanted to
yes.
make sure.
Absolutely, and in fact, that's what Lean is gonna do. Lean is gonna basically provide him a copy as requested, and if that satisfies him,
Can we just double check that first?
yeah.
To make
Okay.
sure that
Yeah.
once they're not employed, I don't have any problem getting a copy of his file, but I'd like to double check it.
You can do that.
Only because I'm not sure if it's, once they're no longer working. for the
Well,
town.
I'm 100% positive,
Yeah,
and especially in the public sector,
Okay.
you know, cause when you go before the county and you get terminated, and you end up requesting a file, so you can see what you have in your file, cause a lot of people don't realize over the years how many things they've done that are in their file.
they
And
forget.
unfortunately here,
Mm.
there's sometimes that we don't do something, you know, and put it in someone's file,
Mhm.
cause we figure, you know, you're trying to be cooperative and, you know, correct them,
Yeah,
so.
Okay, but we have our action, what we're gonna do, we'll initially just, provide him his file, see if he wants to review that, but I think Bob is on the, you can allude to the fact that, what exactly the procedure that Bob alluded to was that we reacted upon the information provided to us by the supervisor. And, we really will not be able to share anything new other than what's in his file,
Right.
okay? All right, that was also an email, we got that. All right, I also have here for action, I have a resignation letter from Tiffany Dodd, resigning from the Dunbarton Historical Awareness Committee. And I just wanna, I'd like to make a motion that we can accept this,
yep, correct.
and do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, so we accepted that letter, and, that was all part of the, shall I say, the historical committee was looking for some, if you recall back, some active members.
New members, yeah.
Yeah, and so we have one right now that was submitted by the chairman of the Dunbarton Historical Committee, and this is Paula Mangini. And she's been nominated, and we can basically approve that tonight.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve it.
The nomination, I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, she's been, let's pass that so we can
Even
spell
though there
it.
was no discussion,
Just,
they didn't need to be
just for
there.
the record, what Donna was asking is that she filled the term of the person,
Completes.
so that would be
Oh,
good
1
through,
year, yeah,
through March of 2018.
Right,
yeah, so we probably should state that.
okay,
I know
You
you
wanna
just
state
said a
it, Paul?
motion, so
It's your
let
motion, so.
okay,
me catch up here, because I didn't.
take your time, take your time.
Motion, yeah.
We'll repeat the motion so you can catch it, we'll say it more exacting.
When's the term in? It's 1 year?
See what they're
Does it
marked.
say it on there? Cause it
It
does say it
does.
in the meet, yeah.
It says it in
Well, I
there.
looked at it in town report, and Tiffany's term expires March of 2018.
And accept,
See it there on the right, hey, Paul?
3-0 to accept.
Term ending, it might be in parentheses.
Oh,
or-
term ending, yeah,
Yeah,
March 2018.
yeah.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we approve Paula Mangini's appointment to the Historical Awareness Committee, term ending March 2018.
I'll second the motion.
Now, is there any further discussion on this one?
Why are you asking that?
I wanna make it official. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
So you've done two motions.
Yes,
Okay.
we made a more exacting motion. In fact, if you wanna abbreviate it into one,
Yeah, we just,
Yeah,
no, we
'cause it
amended
is.
the original motion to say. the date.
I'll get it off the recording, providing it's not messed up.
No, it's
Because
on.
We don't have to sign it.
yes.
I was thinking the other thing I was writing.
They actually made a motion to accept the resignation, and now they made a motion to accept the appointment to the new.
And that goes to, we'll pass that.
I thought you were done that, there's Tiffany Dodd is the one that resigned.
Yeah, I'm all
Okay,
done,
got
Tiffany's.
that. And this
Motion to accept her resignation.
And this gets passed to the town clerk to be sworn in.
And who
Yeah.
made the motion?
Bob did,
I did,
Bob, and who second?
Dave second.
yeah, we switched it around this time.
We're confused.
Okay, and then this is the one to, motion to accept. And who made the motion?
Bob did,
Bob again,
yes,
and Dave again, right?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually you're appointing someone. I forgot that it's filling in Tiffany Dodd's term.
Right,
Right.
right.
Okay,
Somebody give this to Bob for his signature.
please, yes,
Before we forget it.
And the vote on both of those is 3?
3-0.
Yeah. And there was no further discussion.
Oh, discussion. None.
Oh, we gotta beat last week.
I know, I'm not gonna do it, but I'm gonna try. All right, I could go into non-public session and.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh,
You need to have
Can
public.
I have,
we're gonna come back out,
oh, we are,
we have, yeah,
okay.
Oh, no,
It's just I have stuff, I have things to
Okay.
discuss.
Why don't you just finish your regular meeting?
yeah, finish.
okay,
Quick question, are you doing the public comment?
yes, I am,
Well,
I was
okay.
trying to look to the public for comment and I don't see any.
Well,
Nope,
I have one.
Okay,
I vote, I'm a public.
I was gonna ask.
I
you
don't pay taxes though. Indirectly,
indirectly,
Yes,
we
you
all pay
do.
taxes.
no
Okay,
comment.
no comment, sir, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
I just wanted to bring up what, when we're talking about all the utilities. As Lean knows, I went through that because when I bought the place, there was an actual business
Okay,
in the house back there, in the warehouse. And I didn't realize at the time that the rates were so much different. And I finally found out, and I wanted to switch the meter down there from commercial to residential. There was a very big savings, like almost half. So if you, the difference is a residential meter has most of your money paying in the evening hours, because most people work.
Right.
Commercial is, the lower rates are during the day and high at night. So that's one reason you really need to check how they have the meters listed, and what kind of meters they are too.
He's gone already.
But you didn't do public comment after that, so I'm doing it now.
You did a good job holding that.
Yeah, I did, I know. But yeah,
And there's another savings, if you have electric heat,
yeah,
your
There's
rate
another-
is lower.
right. And, I mean, it just, you may wanna check whether all the meters are listed as commercial for during the day. And
Well, I
whatever
think he
building
is-
they use
he
more
is
at
gonna
night, you may
follow
wanna
that.
have a different
they
thing.
have people rent out rooms and.
Yeah. And he comes back in, we'll make sure to review that for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, very good, good,
I'm just, it's just a, you know,
Thanks
for
for
your
bringing it up.
information, because
Yep.
Lean and I know, I went through that
okay.
several months ago.
I'm gonna bring it to the selectmen now, take it back from the public. Anything, general business, it's coming to you, Lee.
No, I know, but I thought I had something for Dave. Never mind, Dave.
I do have something when it comes to Lee too.
I just wanted to make it known, under old business section of our town, of our meeting here, I had given, in hand, the Gagne Town Bench letter that Lean had produced.
Great,
So I not only had told verbally, but went and handed in, so our portion of that bench should be off our agenda now,
Okay,
until they come back to us and pick a location and say they wanna go for it, so at least we can clean that part of our agenda up.
okay.
thank you, Dave.
And, so I wanted to let the board know that. And the only other thing is, in light of Steve not working for the town, we're probably gonna be using Matt Monahan
As a consultant,
as a consultant.
For-
Is that billing coming out of the planning and zoning? And had they budgeted
It
the
would be,
appropriate?
and then it could also, yeah, it definitely is grouped into the building department, there's a
Yeah.
planning and zoning line. And what you would do is overspend that line, so you see a true cost of what it costs the town.
Mhm.
And then there are other lines within other departments, for example, building department, whereas the salary line would stop at this point. It would be a reflection that that's not getting spent, but we may be overspending on
So I just wanted to make sure that, when Matt Monahan is being used by the town to look at different projects, whether it be for planning or zoning, it comes out of appropriate funding.
Oh,
It will,
absolutely.
it will, yep.
absolutely.
That's all I wanted to make a note, because this will be until his spot is fulfilled.
Yeah, I'll hopefully have all that put together for next
And-
week to discuss.
And, so are we gonna, how soon are we gonna put a request out for a new,
I am going to put the ad out before next week in the paper, and I would like to just revisit the job description of that department, just
so
briefly.
we'll
make some
review it
changes
by next
by
meeting?
next Thursday, and I've given a copy of it to the planning chairman, so that if he has any comments, he needs to speak now, because as,
And you'll grab a copy for us by email so we can review it?
Yep,
Okay,
yep.
great.
Yeah, the thing is, if you do get it by email, give comments back, because
Yeah.
we wanted to execute quicker than later.
right,
Yep.
it's nice to have an updated, the last time it was updated is 2014.
Yeah.
All I can see right now are minor, changes, you may have, an opinion or a
Well,
recommendation.
if you wanna put some of them changes in red,
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll look at them.
One of the things I talked to Ken about, we don't really, it's nice to have the experience of having previous zoning and building experience, but a person who has just general office knowledge as an administrator, who's basically an aggressive self-starter, it can be just as valuable as someone with experience. And Ken is very much in favor of that, not restricting it, that someone has to have, especially in this day and age, the experience to run, the building department and the zoning board, for example. And so we're gonna have it as valuable, but not a requirement to have it into the position. Do you understand where I'm going with that?
I do, not necessarily sure I agree with that, but,
But as
I
we,
guess I'll read your recommendations and we'll go from there and discuss it.
yeah, if there's any real heartburn about it, we can postpone it, but the thing is, I don't think there's gonna be heartburn, because again, you're gonna be involved in the selection of the candidates at the end of the day. We all will be.
Yeah, but I also think that when we post it, we should be posting for the proper thing too, so I guess we'll review it.
Yeah, but what I don't wanna do is, the thing is, in this day and age where we have as Bob may have said, there's a shortage of people out there. Just because someone doesn't have experience in it, we've had people with no experience work in that department and basically done very well.
okay, that would be me,
Right.
because I started from the bottom, ground up. But my point is though, when I started, I was getting paid a salary that was,
Low.
based on my experience. So what we have established for that position and title is well above what we might.
Can we get a range in there based upon someone with little experience versus no experience? That's something we might wanna consider.
I would, myself thinking, I'd like to get somebody with experience if we can, and if we come to a point where we can't get any applicants, at that point, maybe we can consider, changing the rate of pay and or going with somebody with less knowledge. But I think we ought to at least put it out there and have somebody, if you put it out there properly, you could have somebody, even like a Matt Monahan, maybe say, well, maybe I'd like to try that out.
We already asked him, he said no.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just using him for an example.
I know. You're absolutely.
Either that or have it that their salary would be
Based,
commensurate
yeah,
with experience to, to a maximum.
up to, yeah.
Up to and have the maximum
Yeah,
of what they would receive, so that you have candidates that may have some general knowledge that'll come in and wanna do
Yep.
that. And you're gonna have someone that might not have much experience, and then you can set their salary.
Okay,
That's what we can look at the job description and put it that way.
Yeah.
And if there's any real heartburn, and we can always postpone it, but I don't wanna necessarily postpone it too long.
okay, so I'll be general enough, but broad enough so that the ad can get out there. And we
yeah, and
can-
if you put the changes in red, then we can review them and say, I don't mind these changes, but I didn't like that one, or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Yep,
We'll
yep,
comment on them.
Yeah.
so-
So I think we have a consensus where we wanna go.
And even the changes, if Ken wants to put changes in there, if you do
Yeah.
them in red like you normally do,
yep,
we can see
Yep.
what was originally the job description.
All right, Lean, back to you.
all right, so I have a few things. I just wanted to remind the board that the financial statements and the management letter have been distributed to the board. Please take them home and review them, as our exit conference is set for next Thursday with our auditor, so that would be next Thursday, the 28th. And this will give you time to review the two documents you've received and then come up with questions that.
It is a time for questions and answers. We're paying these people to do our books, and they made recommendations. And if you don't understand them, this is our time to basically
Ask questions.
ask questions and explain it to us.
And they're pretty thorough with their explanation. For new boards, they will take the extra time to explain where the numbers came from and how they developed those numbers, so. Just wanna remind you, don't forget your.
And I wanna point out one of these things on one of the documents. And I wanna respect the company because, and I wanna respect this board. And I wanna say, it's intended for information and use of management of the board, selectmen, and no other. So this is kind of I'm gonna leave it as a sensitive document, not for public consumption. Okay?
Okay, I wanna let the board know that Lemontine Builders has requested a public hearing to accept the remainder of Overlook. So, and that will be scheduled for October 19th, will you be back?
Nope.
Okay. The
That's okay, I
reasoning for
think
that, the reasoning for that is because they're going to the planning board on the night before, and they will be subject to, it will be contingent on the planning board's recommendation to the selectmen.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with these two doing that.
Yeah.
I was at the last
Yeah.
planning board meeting, obviously. so-
Yeah.
The only issue that we just gotta make sure that we get some engineering,
Yep.
Yeah.
appropriate engineering, feedback.
Right. So just for the board's record, the phase two that they're looking to get accepted is, 785 feet. So they really did the majority of the, road construction. We'll be looking for engineering comments and,
And I wanna, advise the board that the thing is, we still have an outstanding bond, a very high bond they have with us.
yeah.
And they aren't coming to us for that yet?
No.
It's expected in November, that's the
Yeah.
rumor right now.
Yeah, yeah, so, yeah, that's 650,000 that we have, active bond, all right, again, earlier you mentioned the site visit of the transfer station, please put it on your calendar to
Okay.
get down there to visit transfer station and talk to Woody about the needs down there. I think the board decided to do it independently.
Correct.
I'm not sure how often you folks get down by Twist Hill Road, but I just wanted to remind the board that Purgatory Pond Road is moving right along. Site visit is recommended, he's really doing a really good job there, but you need
Lean,
to.
while you're bringing that subject up, I was just by there a couple weeks back and, it was before his current state,
Mhm.
but there was a sign at the end of the road for several days that said road closed.
Correct, because they had large equipment and they were setting the crown and they were doing substantial work that wouldn't have allowed, I think they, what is that,
Excavator,
no, it's the one that smooths the road out.
Roller,
grader.
The grader, I think,
Yeah.
and that literally, it was so big, it's bigger than the one the town has.
Oh, okay.
And it was literally taking up the whole width of the road.
My only comment on that, maybe we could double check with Jeff, is if there's a sign there stating that town road is closed, there has to be.
It's not a town road, it's class 6.
Oh, it's class
Hasn't been
six.
accepted yet.
Oh, so it's not
But-
class 5.
Right, but I think that Jeff is still looking for engineered plans, deeded easement turnaround, and engineer review, so there's some things still
and
outstanding.
I wanna give you.
I don't know if you can even legally close a class 6 road, it's supposed to be open for travel, even though it's a class 6 road.
I think it was basically like if somebody like Eversource is working on tree limbing, they may detour you through another area, not a throughway, for
Yeah.
a short period
And
of
that's,
time.
that's why I was confused, this
Yeah.
said road closed.
It was just for the course of that day, and then
Just
they
that
moved
day.
it off to the side.
I
at
just
the
hit
end.
the lucky day.
Yeah.
One of the things, I wanna give you kudos, because, remember when he came before the board? You had him reiterate everything which they said in public, so the thing is, we're gonna go back, I have to meet with the, road agent about that, from the planning board side. And the thing is, one of the things he's gotta pay for an engineer to come out there and do the inspections.
Our town engineer.
Yes,
Mhm.
and that's work in progress right now with Jeff, but thing is, everything which was agreed to years past was reiterated in a public meeting this year,
Right,
and he really insisted upon that, so, that was
I
important.
made sure we didn't do general discussion.
right,
Right, and so, in other words, he reaffirmed a previous decision, agreements by the board, and reaffirmed it in public this year.
Yeah.
And so it was a good thing he did that. Because we were on the impression it was gonna take years, and obviously he's moving out smartly this year. So, it's, I'm gonna revisit those, with Jeff, and we're gonna talk about that, and get our engineer engaged.
Okay.
okay. Town clerk is requesting permission to attend the training class for preservation. It's a $30 class, we did not budget that in this year, but she does
Preservation
have
of
preservation.
archives.
She does have money in the archive line that she said that she can tap into, so she'd like the permission to do that, so I said, for the money, I think it's well spent. So she'll
I
be
don't
going,
have any issue with it.
yeah, she'll be going with that. We talked about that, and then
Painting.
Bob, that was reminded, Mike, you're supposed to talk about painting update.
All right, you notice this building, we have some progress started on this building. All right, don't shoot the messenger now. Bob, don't shoot me now. You know how we wanted to have some architectural details enhanced in the building?
He
Well,
wanted, not the board.
Right, not he wanted. And we kinda like said we like white. He came to me, and the thing is, there was a question that you asked before, are the doors gonna be done? Yes, the door's gonna be repainted, that's part of the contract.
I did ask him.
Alright. You know that little bulletin board out there? He'd like to move some architectural details on the bulletin board alone to kind of match the doors.
I don't care if you accent the bulletin board, I just didn't want the building done.
Right.
I
Bob,
don't have a problem.
he said it would make it the bulletin board
Look at
pop.
how easy Bob is tonight.
I tell you. And so, Lean, if you could you pass on to the painter that, I think we're in consensus that he can do the building, not the building. I say again, not the building.
Is there a charge for that?
No. But, he's, obviously this gentleman has an artistic eye, and he wants to express it a little bit.
Okay.
I'm gonna say, if he makes it, make it pop, make people see the bulletin board, well, that might be something
And I
interesting.
have one more item.
Okay? You gotta go to Bob too.
Yeah, Allison Values was part of the 250th anniversary quilt club that involved 15 or more people that worked on this quilt here. And she is concerned that what she is observing in such a tight meeting room area, that a couple things are happening, it's fading, chairs are getting rubbed up against it, and each one of those has hand-stitched embroidery throughout, or the technique that they use, I'm not sure exactly what it's called, but she would like the board to approve a verbal quote that she's gotten from a local carpenter, Bill Morse, that said he could create a box that will hold that for display, and it runs between $1,200 and $1,500. And because it's a anniversary quilt, it would be nice to see it get preserved so it doesn't get damaged.
No, it will still fade in the box, right?
Well, they're gonna be using a plexiglass, cause plexiglass is lighter in weight, and that will stop some of the UV rays from damaging it.
A lot of
Is it, how is that gonna stop UV rays?
them. The inherent material, plexiglass, does stop.
Read that part.
It's like
Lean,
polycarbonate.
who's requested this? I didn't hear.
Allison Values, and she was part of the
Allison.
250th
Unless
Quilt.
glass is treated to stop UV rays, nothing.
No, it's not
How
glass,
do you
it's
spell her
it's
last name?
plexiglass.
I know,
It's
it's
Allison.
not treated.
Oh, Allison, okay,
Plastic's
that
not
Allison.
treated to stop
But-
UV rays.
Um,
Never heard of such a thing.
I think it's gonna prevent it from fading further.
it'll prevent it from getting soiled, from rubbing up against it. You can see the bottom is getting soiled already. And with people rubbing against it, that will prevent soil.
Where will the money be coming from?
Building and maintenance.
Is it a hard figure? No.
He said it would not exceed $1,500. So with the pine trim, the backing, and the hardware to hang it up, and the plexiglass, we shouldn't see it between $1,200 and $1,500.
I honestly don't think the plexiglass will save anything UV wise.
No?
And I think that if we're gonna encase it in something, we should look into a glass that has a UV rating on it.
The problem with that is it's such a big piece, it would weigh, he looked into it, the weight on the box would be too heavy to hold up on the wall.
Can you just follow up, see if that plexiglass does have a UV rating? I never heard of such a thing on plexiglass.
It's but yeah, I may be confusing it with polycarbonate. Polycarbonate is 100% UV protection.
Right, which is lightweight also.
It's plastic. Yeah.
So maybe we could check into, using polycarbonate or something with an actual UV rating.
Does it come that big? That's the question.
We'll look it up now.
No,
Not meeting, but-
I don't. It was just a second.
So ask Bill Morse that, is what is the plastic made of, and will
Well, the thing is, will
provide any kind of
UV protection.
UV protection?
I think we're gonna go through the work of putting it into a nice cabinet, which I don't really have a problem with. I think that we need to look at that, you know, is it gonna actually help with the UV? Cause it'll keep fading otherwise, and
The only thing, if you get polycarbonate, it would be no brainer. The only thing with polycarbonate, it scratches a lot. But as long as people don't touch it, it's fine.
I think it maybe could even go up just a little higher and be above the chair rail, you know, so it's
Yeah.
not,
I
Yeah.
totally agree with that.
Mhm.
you know, and then the cabinet will keep it away a little bit.
Yep.
But yeah, I would like to go in, I would like to take, you know, maybe even call granite slate glass or one of the glass and go through the steps to find out what we should put on there for the covering. If we're spending that kind of money.
there's a lot.
Okay, I'll look into that, if you wanna hold off on, any kind of a motion, it's still,
Yeah, we could do it next week or something after we
Yeah,
look into
yeah.
that.
I'll have Joe Marie look that up for you. Granite state glass, you think, right?
Yeah, they'd at least know what we should be doing with it.
They should have plastic, different types of plastic too.
Polycarbonates, plastics, anything we want, I would think. That's who I would go to ask.
Or Queen City glass too.
Yep, any of them.
Okay,
Alright, and I think, that was it.
no, we gotta go to Bob. Bob has not had an
Oh,
opportunity.
is
I
that-
have a
okay.
couple more things I added
Okay.
I have
Okay.
too. There you go, Holly.
Well, I don't have much of anything other than, we saw the, email between Score Construction and the new
And then-
project manager
Yep.
who wants to meet with Joel.
Mhm.
And I just want them to understand that we've already approved something above and beyond
Mhm.
what we had to do.
I think I was clear in the email.
I saw that in the email, exactly. So I'm hoping that if there's a cost to this, they're gonna take care of Joel's, whatever Joel charges, because we made accommodations for a change that I don't even think they're gonna utilize, so I think they're gonna go with it the way it is. And they're just gonna have the new field measurements
Right.
done, so.
Now, this gentleman that I talked to, what was his name, what's the new guy, Chuck?
Yes, yeah.
He said that even with the braces that we had that were drilled wrong, he felt that there was another piece of steel that, on the top, that had to kind of encase that rafter from the top side, and then they would drill it together, and those pieces are not there, so he doesn't know. I think that's what he's looking to find out, if there's something that's still
If
missing,
there's something missing,
yeah,
okay.
okay.
But you gave, he's got blueprints, and so
Yeah.
the thing is, he can knock out blueprints, and at this point in the game, I agree with Bob, if they wanna meet with engineers, I think it should be on their nickel, not the
Oh, yeah,
towns,
yeah.
because we,
Yeah, she made, I saw her
Yeah.
comments,
Yeah,
And
But
she
I
also
just
did
wanna
give her- If
reiterate-
you call Peter, he'd probably walk him through it as well, so.
yeah, yeah,
And I seen you attach Peter to it.
but my point was just to reiterate that, you know,
Yeah.
we've gone above and beyond,
Oh,
cause
yeah.
we gave them
yeah.
a second
And I'll mention that
opportunity.
when I meet this new foreman.
and that was on our nickel.
Yeah,
Okay, back to Dave, you had something else, Dave?
Two quick things, we did an exit interview for Roger Rice, are we doing one with Steve?
yeah, we can offer it to him if he's interested.
When he comes in and sees his file, why don't you offer to him? It may shed some light, even for the new position on issues he had, with the town and how that was handled on that, so we can look at that.
Okay,
I've meant to bring it up in our last meeting. Those pictures were given to the town through the board of selectmen meeting just a short while back. I wanna see if we can maybe get those hung up around here too, and so, those are those nice pictures.
is that what
Of
those
the
are?
maple trees.
I thought they were the cemetery trustees.
Now, those were given to us, the smaller versions.
Okay,
So I'd like to see if we can get those hung up somewhere so we can have them showed instead of stacked up there.
okay, wasn't aware that that's
I
what those
thought
were.
those were for, a
And-
raffle.
Yeah, I
Those
thought,
are for a raffle, they weren't given to the town, they were given.
I think
to
those
people
smaller
for
ones are
raffle.
puppies, there's two different sizes there.
how about if I check with
Why
Dawn?
don't we just verify that?
Do that,
Verify which ones were given to the town and which ones are they using,
yeah.
okay?
They presented them, if we go back to that meeting, I'm sure we could see too, but they did present them to the board of selectmen.
See, I think the opposite, I think she showed us
Yeah,
and left them here, cause
So
she
there's
wants
two
to.
copies, there's big copies there,
Yeah.
and then there's smaller copies
We'll,
that left for us.
we'll make a determination,
yeah,
a determination
If
should be
I
made.
need to check
Yep.
this.
Okay. I'm open for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we
we still need to go into non-public,
Yes,
right?
correct.
close the public meeting.
Okay. I second that.
I'm sorry, you're saying
Made a
you're
motion to
adjourning,
close, adjourn the public meeting.
adjourning just the public meeting.
Yeah.
Your regular meeting.
Yes, sir.
I just got here and you're kicking me out.
Hey. And the thing is, if it goes beyond 10 minutes, I'm wrong.
That's all right.
So your bride will be ready in 10 minutes.
All prep.
Thanks, Gary.
You didn't vote.
Oh, yeah. We're gonna go into,
I made the motion, anybody want to second it?
You've
I second
seconded
it.
it already.
Wait
Oh.
a second.
all in favor, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Did you say the RSA?
We're gonna go,
he's gonna do
I'm
that.
gonna make a motion that we go into non-public in accordance with RSA 91:alpha-3, Roman numeral 2.
A,
And,
B, or C?
Okay.
B,
What's the RSA again? RSA?
91-alpha,
it's on the agenda.
it's on the agenda,
What it is?
Yeah, at the very bottom, just put a B.
Oh.
just put a B by
B
it.
is after it.
All right, I got it.
Vote.
Now I need a vote on that, my motion. I need a second first,
I'll second it.
okay?
Oh,
Dave Knoll second the
Martel says
motion.
yes.
Kaminsky, yes.
Is that two motions in a row?
No.
Oh.
No, not to butt in, but
Oh.
you can hear you out here if you wanted to
Oh,
close
we
the
will.
window.
I will.
That's all, there's stand right there.
That was a little creepy, Gary.
Okay, I'm a little confused here, let me
Okay.
just,
We made,
the first motion made a motion to adjourn the public meeting and go into non-public. Mike seconded the motion, now you're making
No.
another motion?
No,
That's what you said
if you
in the-
read that, back to yourself, we made a motion to close the public meeting,
To close,
to adjourn the
okay.
public meeting.
Adjourn or close?
Adjourn.
adjourn.
Sure,
Adjourn, okay, I'm still confused.
it's okay.
Uh,
We're gonna
Dave made a
clarify.
motion to adjourn the public meeting to go into
No, I
non-public.
said nothing about non-public, Mike is doing all that.
Aye.
All right, so you just made to adjourn the meeting, and Mike, you second the motion.
And we all
Not
in
to go
favor?
into non-public, just
All right.
adjourn the meeting.
And it was 3-0.
Okay. Just, and it was a vote,
3-0.
okay. Then there's a second motion to go into non-public.
That's
Right.
all for Lean.
And who did that motion?
I did,
Okay, Mike, sorry.
it's okay, Bob seconded. And we voted individually.
Did
Right,
you?
yes, yes, yes.
We did.
Three down.
And we're gonna cut